Appreciate you guys being here. As always, it's awesome to be here at Saint Vincent. I want to thank this community for hosting us again. This is an awesome place to be. The people are great. Personally, I'm looking forward to eating some of my favorite restaurants and up here. And obviously, from a football standpoint, there's no better place to have a team come together and grow together and come together. So, like I said, we're excited to be here. From a football standpoint, I'll just mention a couple things. You guys are all aware we put Dean Lowry and Cole Holcomb and Cordell Patterson on the reserve list to start off. We're going to be smart with those guys and strategic, and that's not to say those are long-term or short-term. We just got to be smart. Similar to Russ. I'm sure you guys will ask me about Russ. We're going to be smart and strategic and about when those guys get on the football field. There's a lot of football ahead of us and a long time before September 8th. He's probably asking about some contracts. I won't talk about any specific negotiation, but as you guys are aware, this is usually an active time for us, and there's nothing to report right now. But if something comes together, make sure you guys are aware. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Omar, Cam was saying earlier that he doesn't want to get his hopes up either way, either high or low, because you never know what's going to happen. But he kind of indicated that maybe something might be going on. But is there anything at all? Are you open to that with him?
Open to. I'll say this. We think. I don't want to talk about it. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about a specific negotiation. But I think Cam's got a lot of football ahead of him still, and I'll leave it at this. I expect him to be here for years to come.
Omar, obviously you probably like the wide receivers you brought in.
Yep.
At some point, do you think that you have to go out and find an upgrade, or you see how it plays out during training camp before you can make that decision?
If there's ever an opportunity to upgrade, regardless of the receiver room, whatever the room is, we're gonna look at it. You guys have heard me say that before, but I feel good about the room we have right now. We have a lot of talented players in there, and guys that are contribute and guys that can do different things. So I think the room for me, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see these guys work, and it's day one.
Who in particular excites you?
For the receivers, I'm excited to see all those guys. We had a new quarterbacks working with new receivers, and we have 3 weeks up here to see how they gel, and we have a new offensive coordinator, new offense. So just seeing how all those guys come together, really the whole thing's really exciting to see progress.
Did you try to make a trade?
For
a receiver?
There's nothing going on right now. So I'll tell you this: when you got 32 GMs, conversations always happen, but there's nothing ongoing right now.
So, Omar, to your point then about how there's still a lot of time between now and September 8th, are you going to use that time to actively seek more help there, or are you using that time to evaluate what you have in the room currently?
Well, I think obviously you're going to use this time to evaluate the whole roster, not just that room. But as I mentioned, Tim, we're always going to have conversations with people, and there's an opportunity to evaluate a situation or a player that's out there. That's what we'll do. We'll think about it, and if it makes sense, we'll pursue it. If not, then we won't. So.
Omar, Cam's going into 14th season, I think, coming off a pretty serious injury. Your confidence in him seems resolute. Where's that coming from?
He's, he had historically he's been, last year, he had a rough stretch there, but I'm confident the way he works, and Cam, the person, the player, obviously, and I have no doubt that Cam has a lot of football left.
We've heard a lot from different players on both sides of the ball about Russell's leadership. How much did you feel like that leadership was necessary on the offense with such a young roster, and is that part of why you brought him in?
Well, that's obviously, Russ is a leader. He's been a vet, played at a high level in this league for a long time, and I feel like we have leadership in every room in our on this roster right now. But when we went into the offseason, we said to ourselves, if there's an opportunity to bring more leadership in a specific room, we're going to do it. And the quarterback room is basically it's new. So but we have good, not only in Russ and Justin and Kyle, and John Rye's got some great guys ahead of him to learn from.
What's your initial impressions have been of Russ and how he's assimilated himself into this
Oh, it's been great. I mean, you guys are aware about how hard he works, and he's in there really, and so it's been great.
The 8-game suspension of Cam Sutton, did that come as a surprise to you, the length of it?
We understood that there was there was going to be some type of suspension, and we respect what the league gave us, and we'll be ready to receive him when he's ready.
Omar, why not pick up the option on Najee? What was that conversation like with him?
Yeah, I called Najee when we made the decision, and we just felt at the time it was the right decision for the club. I'll keep the conversation Najee and I had between us, but I can tell you, we think the world of Najee, and just because that option was an exercise doesn't mean that he doesn't have a future here. He represents us well. He's you guys know what he's like as a football player. He's a great football player. He's great to have in the building. So, I still see a future with Najee.
From your perspective, why did you guys do it though? What made sense not to?
There's different steps and layers in making those decisions, and when we evaluated where the team was, we just said, right now let's hold off.
How much
Omar,
of not
knowing
having
that
a
you guys don't negotiate contracts during the season and your quarterbacks are only under contract through the end
Yep.
of this season, how do you kind of evaluate maybe wanting some long-term security with either one of those guys versus also the unknown of how they'll be on the field once you get into the season? Do you look at an extension for either one of them in this period during camp?
Yeah, Brooke, I'll just say we're focused on this year, and we'll see how things shake out, and we understand that we got 3 quarterbacks on 1-year deals. And that's this position we're in, and but we're excited about the guys that we have. So we'll address those after the season.
You guys have cap space right now, which it seemed untypical at this point of the year to have as much buffer as you have. Was that by design, or just thinking, is that an opportunity? Is there ways you can deploy that, or is it just a matter of rolling it over?
Yeah, we had an opportunity to create and be in this position, and that's I mean historically you guys have known me. I'm not. Since I've been in this job, we've never gone into the season with a lot of cap room. So we've usually used it. So it's there for a reason. If there's an opportunity to utilize it, like I said, we have some guys that we may talk to and get extensions done, and always you mentioned always having if there's a trade opportunity out there, we have some flexibility. That having all that cap room, it just gives us flexibility. It's been a long time since we've been in this position.
What's the challenge that you guys face as far as you got to keep a close eye on all the guys developing here, but also being mindful of environments elsewhere, players holding out in other situations that might open up trade opportunities like that?
So what's the question?
What's the challenge of balancing that, keeping track of that while also you're in training camp and you guys are watching young players develop?
Yeah, I mean our primary focus is on these 90 guys here, right? I mean that's what we're focused on, and that's how we're looking at it right now. And like I mentioned earlier, there's nothing going on right now. And if the question was asked, and I guess I'll just say, if there's an opportunity to have a discussion about somebody that's out there, someone that's cut, not necessarily traded, we'll look at it. But I assure you, our focus is on these 90 guys right now.
There was outlets that reported that 49ers gave permission for Aiyuk to seek a trade. If that was true, did his party reach out to you guys?
Yeah, I have not any conversations about that. I mean, I can tell you that amongst the 32 GMs, we all talk, we all have conversations, and it's believe it or not, it's still early in the process here. So I'm not going to talk about one specific player, but we all talk amongst ourselves.
Omar, as great as it is to have the flexibility that you talked about, especially for next year, without having the quarterback under contract, to Brooks' point, is it also then hard though from a planning perspective if you don't know what this big chunk of your roster is going to be against the cap next year?
Yeah, when we look at the cap, and this goes back from a year since I've been here, we don't always look at it as year one, as 1 year as this year, right? The focus is on this year, but we always have a short-term plan, a mid-term plan, and a long-term plan. So all that comes into play, and so we have ideas. We run scenarios all year long about what could happen next year, the year after. So
is it harder to get Cam's deal done because you don't know what that chunk of money is going to be for the quarterback next year, or any player?
I mean, if you guys have seen our cap situation next year, I mean, we have, I would say we're in a comfortable position, and you guys have heard me use this word before, it provides us flexibility.
With
If we want a player, if there's a player that we want to extend and we can get a deal done, we've never held back from doing a deal.
With Cam Sutton missing that first half of the season, what are your thoughts on the slot candidates and what you might do there?
Yeah, that's why we're here at camp, to see how these guys progress, and other guys are having the opportunity to show us that that's their job to take, and stay one.
Anyone else? Omar, looking back, do you feel good about that 23 draft class, and do you think that a few of those guys are ready for a next league?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel really good about the draft classes. I do about this draft class. It's early, but it's on them. They got to take the leap from year 1 to year 2. But I have all the confidence that they're going to be able to do that. So you guys know it was a good group and a fun group to be around, and guys that have the potential to grow and be good football players.
Speaking on the slot opportunity on defense, Deshaun Elliott was lined up a bit there today in practice. Was that part of the excitement of bringing him into the organization, was the flexibility he'd offer to do stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's day one, and I think there's 3 more weeks here to try different things, and that's just part of the process.
Omar, I think you talked to the combine that Roderick Jones was drafted to be a left tackle, and you said would eventually be that. Is that still the thinking after adding a guy like Troy Fautanu?
Yeah, I've said it. I don't know. I'm not going to stand here and tell you when that's going to happen, but he was a left tackle in college, and he was drafted to be a left tackle, and I would say that at some point down the road, I'm not gonna predict when or what year, but he's a talented player.
Coach Tomlin mentioned yesterday when we asked about Keanu Benton that big things were expected in year 2. Do you share that same philosophy, and is there anything that you see in him that helps you get that feeling that this is a breakout season?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I feel like that about all the guys, all the rookies last year going into year 2. Expect big things out of them. But the one thing about that group as a collective, including Keanu, is how they work. And the one thing is they love football. Keanu, he loves football, and he works at it. He wants to be great, and I think that's what's really special about that class last year. It's just those guys want this, and that's important.
Omar, what's stood out about Russell these 4 months? Have you gotten to know him that maybe you didn't know about him?
Obviously as a player, you knew what he was as a player. He's a Super Bowl champion and has some great numbers. But I didn't know Russell as a person, and he's been up here. We got to know him the last whatever months it's been, and he's a hard worker. Great family guy, great person. I think you could ask his teammates what they think about him. He's been a great teammate, and his work ethic is really, really unique. It's special. He works at it, and that's great.
Omar, there's been a lot of changes happening just between schedule. Mike was wearing a white shirt today at practice. It seems like there's maybe something new and different about camp this year. What's kind of your read on these changes, and is something like that a benefit to a team to shake things up that's done something so routine for so long?
I can't really say anything about coaches' practice attire. I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but there's definitely a good vibe. I don't know if it's day one or just seeing how the offseason progressed, and there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of new faces, the coaching staff, the players, in my department and throughout the organization, and I think there's just a really cool vibe about the people that we have here.
Can changes like practice times and meeting times and things like that keep an organization from getting too complacent in the routine that you can almost get in a rut sometimes?
Yeah, we'll see. We changed the schedule up, and we think it was the right thing to do for different reasons. But we'll see.
Omar, what are your thoughts on Hard Knocks coming
up? I haven't given it a whole lot of thought, but it does apply to the other 3 teams in the division, right? Yeah. So if they got to do what we got to do, we'll deal with it, and hopefully I'll get in a little better shape before those cameras are in there.
Are you with the other 32 GMs, 31 GMs? Are you guys giving any sort of feedback to the owners? Or what is your role with this whole 18-game discussion? Do you have much one, or is it just sort of casual conversation?
Yeah, it's just, to be honest with you, with the other GMs, we really have. There's so much going on that that decision about the 18th game that happens, at a higher level than I think we're at. So when we when we converse, obviously I have a lot of good friends that are in those roles, and it's really just talk about, family, things like that, and obviously football. But yeah, I really don't have much to say about that. That conversation hasn't been if you ask me, has there been a serious conversation about that amongst us?
Obviously,
No.
the 32 GMs give feedback to anybody in the league office.
I mean, I don't know if somebody else has, we have conversations amongst ourselves, but nothing structured.
I know you won't talk specific players or whatever, but there, other than Cam, there's a couple players that final year of their contracts. They're at least you can negotiate with somebody. You talked about extensions being ongoing right now at this time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily specifically ongoing as we stand here today, but this is the time where historically we've engaged in some conversations, and sometimes deals get done, sometimes they don't.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Omar,
sir.
along those lines, is there a school of thought that you might want to wait and see how this plays out before you commit? Whereas in years past, you might have been a little more certain?
With respect to,
Different players getting extensions or what have you, options, that kind of thing.
no, I mean, I think we have a plan in place, and you like to say when you have conversations, you get them done quick, but sometimes they take longer than they have to. But I don't think we're necessarily just waiting to see something at this point.
Coach Tomlin's now the longest tenured head coach in the NFL's 18th training camp. Is there one characteristic you think of him has allowed him to stay in a profession, stay with one team as long as he has, when there's a pretty high burnout rate with NFL coaches?
Wow, just one thing. That's hard. That's hard to describe in one word. But I'll just say, the one thing I've always loved about Coach is his passion. He loves the game of football. He just loves it, and I mean, his passion is second to none. It really is. We all see it every day. I mean, you guys see it. He just loves the game of football. I mean, he's a great example for a lot of us, and him and I are similar in that we don't have a lot of hobbies, right? It's family and football, but his passion is pretty unique.
I know you mentioned that you're focused on the 90 men here, and also always an opportunity to evaluate. But what about, would the window be open for a Patrick Peterson, who always said that he would always be interested if his phone rang?
Yeah, we don't close the door on anything. You don't know how the rest of camp and the rest of the season is going to go. Obviously, injuries come to play and different things happen, and you got to be prepared.
Anyone else? All right, you guys can go eat now.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.